Yeah?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay. There we go. Now I can see you. I can't see Saida though, actually.
I'll, okay, just 1 minute. I don't, no camera is detected. Please attach camera device to the system.
Amina, did you enjoy your visit to London?
Yay. Are we like
We like
live?
live
No,
now.
or the no?
And since you left, the snow has gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pity.
It's a very sunny day now. It's quite warm actually.
Warm.
Warm.
Yeah, probably 20 degrees.
Saida, can you get your webcam? I'm not sure anyone can hear me now. Can you still hear me? Because my sound seems to have gone funny. I can't hear you, Amina.
I can hear you. I can
I
hear
can
you
hear
because
you
I
because
switch
I
off
switch off. Okay.
I connected to
Okay.
because
Because
otherwise,
otherwise,
like when
like
you
when you
type,
type,
I can hear you typing.
typing. Yes, so I'll mute my mic when I type. I
I
think
don't know whether we should do it like.
so. Shall I start? Um, yes. Okay. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to our presentation about OpenMed, or its full title is Opening Up Education in South Mediterranean Countries. And this is an international cooperation project funded by the European Union Erasmus Plus program. And it really is a great pleasure for us to present our project work to you today, and especially during Open Education Week 2018. So I'm just checking everyone can hear me clearly before I move on. Is this volume okay? Great, okay. So today, in the next sort of 45 minutes or so, we are going to talk with you about our project. But first, some introductions. So my name is Catherine Wimpenny, and I'm a researcher in a research centre at Coventry University called Global Learning, Education and Attainment. And I'm going to start today giving you an overview of the OpenMed project, and then I'm going to hand over to Professor Saida Afune from An-Najjar National University in Palestine, who's going to talk about her experience in being a project partner in OpenMed. And then I'm going to invite Ramina Kashia from the University of Seville, who's going to share with us some of the preliminary findings from some interviews that we've been conducting with facilitators of our OpenMed open course, which is being running recently. So more about that later, and some of the challenges and the recommendations that have come from that. So first though, let's have a look at some of the members of our project team. And you'll see here some of the logos from the OpenMed Consortium. We have 5 partners from Europe and 9 university partners from 4 countries from the South Mediterranean. And that's from Morocco, Palestine, Egypt, and Jordan. And here you can see we are sat in the Disruptive Media Learning Lab. Oh, excuse me, the slides are shaking a little. Which was a project meeting early on in the lifetime of the project. Let me just try and get back to this slide. Doesn't want to stay there. But it's just been such a great pleasure and privilege to work with the partners during the project. And we've had partner meetings hosted at most of all the partner regions. And really, during these times, there's been a really concerted effort to design an agenda for both formality and informality. And really, the trips to each other's partner institutions and to each other's countries have been really powerful learning opportunities for us to better understand the local context and to meet other stakeholders on the ground. So we've had a wonderful chance to do this during the lifetime of the project. In terms of the overall objective, OpenMed is really focused on how universities from the designated countries and other South Mediterranean countries can join the action as community collaborators in the adoption and strategies and channels to embrace the principles of openness and reusability to improve the quality of education and teaching. And if we think about this as our sort of learning journey, this slide identifies our roadmap. I'm sorry that the slides are jumping a little, but our roadmap here identifies 3 main project phases. And these are, if I can get the slide to stay still, a review of open education practices, which was a first task, and then looking at how to widen participation in OER with capacity building opportunities for lecturers and other higher education professionals. So I'm going to go on to share more about these 3 project phases shortly. But if we just look at some of these specific objectives, you can see that we're focused on raising awareness and widening HER participation in the South Mediterranean region. We have a focus on an agenda for open education resources, focused at institutional levels. And for this, we've designed strategic roadmaps to really look at more granular level at some of the institutional needs and strategies. And with this, how to support capacity building in university teachers on using and reusing open education resources. And moving on to then look at open education practices which offer students flexible and up-to-date open content and learning paths. And this is something we're going to be moving on to. I mean, really, OpenMed has focused on questioning the role of higher education institutions in the responsibility for sharing knowledge. It's really questioned how universities can rethink their mission, their institutional policies, issues around intercultural exchange, international partnership, and overall our shared learning experiences. So really some very important objectives. So what have we learnt about so far on our journey? So I mentioned there were 3 phases on the learning journey, and the first phase, which was the task of Coventry University, was to gather and analyse data about open education practices in the South Mediterranean region and more globally. And this was really to help us look at how this would inform the subsequent packages of the project. So we wanted to look at case studies that could provide inspiration and insight into the South Mediterranean region, as well as promoting some chance for reflection and discussion about priorities for change. Just very briefly, we gathered together country reports from Palestine, Jordan, Egypt, Morocco. We conducted a survey at an institutional level to understand the goals of the participating institutions. We did also a lot of interviews with experts in open education practices. And these people were identified from international open education communities, as well, particularly people from the South Mediterranean region. And when you look at the OpenMed website, and hopefully the links that are provided here on the slide, you can have a look more closely at the expert interviews and also this compendium of practices. So this slide shows that there were 11 case study initiatives that were brought together in the compendium. And these include a variety of different types of open education practices, examples of learning platforms, repositories, open access publication networks, and examples of MOOCs. So moving on to how we then thought about what the case studies and compendium offered us was mainly 5 key themes, which focused on both a top-down and bottom-up approach to implementation. So this was around strategic policy development, as well as capacity building for staff, co-creation opportunities, and intercultural exchange in the communities of practice, because we really wanted to look at enhancing quality of learning for students, and especially thinking about the licensing of OER content. So in phase 2, we've really looked at a widening participation agenda, and this has been based on fostering a regional agenda with partners in the South Mediterranean region. And this was looking at how best the universities could embed strategies about open education practice and OER in their universities. And these regional agendas were developed. So the document, which you can see, we can comment on at that link there, really is starting from an understanding of the challenges and the priorities for opening up education in the South Mediterranean. And the agenda, as you can see on the palm of the hand there, has brought together a set of strategic actions to help maximize the benefits of OER and open education practice. So again, for further information, you can have a look at our regional agenda. If you see the next slide, then you can see how we had 4 OER national strategy forums. And these took place between November in 2016 and April in 2017. And these took place in the partner regions in Morocco, Egypt, Palestine, and Jordan. And they gathered together all types of individuals and stakeholders, education ministers, managers, educators, decision makers, PhD students, etc. And the objective of these partner forums was really to give the stakeholders opportunity to discuss, to revise, and to validate the regional agendas, and also to think about these longer term policy plans to really help develop strategic actions to impact change for the democratization and accessibility of education. In responding to the need to help develop capacity building for academics, and I'm sorry again, this slide is jumping a little, the third phase of our project has brought together the Open Education training course. This has been designed and developed in a very multinational, multi-country way, very collaborative. And the course has been running its pilot from September 2017 until just recently in February 2018. And following this pilot phase, which is being formally researched, the course will be revised and based on the feedback amended and then released to be opened up for access for other universities, learners, etc. So we're very excited about this course. And just to share with you some of the aims. So certainly it's about widening participation and capacity building in open education and the use of OER amongst universities in the South Mediterranean. It's really targeting university teachers, and the course, which has been developed by the partners, is also available in English, Arabic, and French. If we think about some of the key learning outcomes, after having taken this course, the learners will be able to really think about the advantages of adopting OER and open education practices across different contexts. A focus will be on the ways to apply open licenses, on how to really think about searching for, reusing and remixing OER, a focus on MOOCs and their development, and looking more broadly at open education practice across teaching and research. If we just see an overview of the course, you can see it really has developed on from the compendium and the key recommendations and how this focused to the regional agenda. The overview of the course has got 5 modules which keep this thread about enabling people who participate to look at being understanding and being introduced to openness in education, the focus on licensing, on the use of OER and their reuse, and importantly localizing OER and the design of MOOCs and the more general practices. So you can see that there's learning outcomes per module, there's tasks in terms of activities which help contribute to apply in a very practical way the learning from the online course, and then there's very specific ways that learners can get feedback through self-evaluation, etc., on the actual course format. So in its pilot run, the course has had this face-to-face element initially. So each of the partner HEIs brought together a learning community from which the learning activities for the online course could be considered and worked through. And then there was this online phase, the learning phase, where people work through these 5 modules and the activities proposed. So this means that the learners had a chance to meet face-to-face and collaboratively work on the course, as well as being able to look at an individual level at the course content. And following the opportunity to take the course, the learners are expected to apply the skills and complete final project work. And this really is trying to target teaching and learning opportunities and to fully integrate the content from the online phase and build that up into steps that are taken to help people in their individual practices. If we see here, you can have a look at some of the participants who joined us at a partner meeting at the Polytechnic de Politico in Torino. And this involved the OpenMed partners as well as educators from across the partner higher education institutions. So this was a fantastic opportunity for us to launch the course. And if we move on now to just look at actually who's on the course, who's participating in this phase, you'll see that we have 62 people who are taking the course. And just quickly having a look at some of the data here, you can see there's a fairly even spread in terms of participants from across the 4 main partner regions. But you'll see also we have colleagues who have joined us from the Notre Dame University in Lebanon. And this was fantastic to invite other colleagues from the South Mediterranean to be part of our course and part of the project. And we met these partners at OER 2017. And it's important to know that the Notre Dame University are also doing more events this week as part of Open Education Week. And I know they're going to be sharing, I think tomorrow, some of their experiences of taking part in this training course. So you might want to follow on that. But interestingly, we can see that there are perhaps more males on the course than females. Interestingly, more people aged over 50 taking the course. And we have a good level of facilitators as well as our learners. And in terms of background, we can see again that subject areas from which people are coming, information and communication studies, perhaps they're up at the top, but maybe fewer people, but still nonetheless representatives from health, social sciences, journalism studies, etc. We can see that the majority of people who are on the course did have prior experience with online learning. And we can see from the awareness of concepts that the open licensing was perhaps the area that people were less aware of or wanted more support with. So just a few comments there about the actual analysis of the course participants. And if we think about going back to the philosophy of the course and how we've really tried to look at a blended approach, we can see here our wonderful facilitators of the local learning circles. So here we have our 12 facilitators who have been established in all the partner universities. So we have one or two of these facilitators who are in charge of organising these local meetings, really helping support the learners through the pilot course, who are in charge of trying to support the activities and coordinate the learning circle, perhaps facilitating with any technical issues on the course platform, which is, by the way, Sakai, which is being hosted by the University International de La Rioja, or UNIR for short. And in addition, we have one facilitator from Cairo University who has had an overarching role to really help support and communicate with all the other facilitators. So we've been looking at different levels and layers of support for the learners taking part in the course. It's so key that we have the enthusiasm of the facilitators. It's been very important to us to think about the quality of content for our course, but this importance of being able to discuss things and localize the online content to really help engage with and motivate our learners. So in essence, 5 modules in 3 languages. So the course is available in English, French and Arabic. We have these 9 learning circles in the different institutions, our 12 facilitators, our 62 learners, and the 5 countries that are represented, all coming together in one wonderful OpenMed community. So, I mean, in summary, I think what's become very evident to date is the willingness of the OpenMed partners from across all levels of education to listen, to negotiate, to plan, and to discuss and take action to find ways to operationalize open education practice and to make it a significant learning experience for us all as partners of OpenMed. And certainly I think what's very encouraging is how a bottom-up and top-down action initiated by the project is already coming together to really help result in actual systematic change in open education practice in the Mediterranean. So that's where we are to date, and it's now my great pleasure to hand over to Professor Saida Afune, who's going to share with you a bit more about the actual experience of the OpenMed course from the Palestinian perspective. So thank you, Saida.
Thank you, Catherine. Hello to everybody. I'm going to go through the Palestinian journey in OpenMed project. It was a pleasure for us to be part of this fantastic project. In our culture, it used to be that open education is only for open universities, and for disadvantaged people. But of course, we all know that this is not the truth nowadays. Through this project, we learned a lot that in traditional universities, we still can practice open education and also use open resources. I'm going to reflect on the achievement from after this project and the outcomes of this project for this stage. Going through it from the beginning until now, we started with our first MOOC, which was Discover Palestine MOOC, which we work through developing it in a way that was doing through learning. But through this project, when it was chosen as a case study, we learned a lot and became more confident about developing a MOOC. So we thought that we should start our next MOOC, which we start more confident about doing our second MOOC, which is about genetic and society. And it was a good experience for us to move from doing a MOOC in Arabic language, since we learned through the project that there was a lack of online content and there was only few numbers of MOOCs in Arabic language. So we start to work on our second MOOC to develop about genetic and society for Arab communities. Through this project, we get more confidence and we learn a lot about best practices in OER. So we were encouraged to do more recorded courses and to make them open for the whole society in Arabic and English in both languages. And we were very confident to open some of our online courses. We used to develop courses only for our learners, but now we open them for the whole community on the web. Also, one of something we did is an initiative for Safe Online initiative, which is also in Arabic, producing more content, which is either videos or written content or audio, to help the society, especially children and youth, to be safe online. What's important about this is how we move and how we choose between ready-made resources, open resources that exist online, and how to use it under which license, and also how to produce quality material in according to the best practices. Through our this project, we have learning circles, learning cycles. We have 8 learners in 3 groups. What's amazing about this is that we learned together and also we worked together through several meetings that we conduct inside the university, because some of us have very good experience in producing online courses and open courses, but others are recently know about this. But working in groups and talking to each other and reflecting on our practices, that give us more opportunity to develop better understanding of open resources and open education projects. So we thought, what do we need? What projects can we work on? We have 3 projects. One of them is which was English for Palestine. 3 of us, Kifah is with us. She leads a group to work on this project about learning, reading, and vocabulary in an interactive way, where they went back to the textbook and they produced it in an interactive way, in a very good way. And you can see that they have they put a license on it. It was done by 3 of our team. Project work number 2, it was the second MOOC, which is Genetic and Society. Something very important about this MOOC, that all the material were produced by the people who are from the university, and it is under the license, the common license, and also we use the best practices that we learned through the course of how to develop it. And the person who was the subject matter expert in this course, he has never been practicing using any open resources. So it was his first time, but it was a wonderful experience. And it's amazing to learn that we just launched this MOOC 1 week ago, and we have now more than 200 people who register for it, which is amazing to see how much people can learn from open resources and about the importance also of the topic. The third project was about action research. We are in the Faculty of Educational Science and Teacher Training. One of our courses is action research, and we are training our teachers on that so they can improve their teaching practices. And it's developing this open resource is very important so they can go back to it and can improve their teaching skills. We did not stop on the university levels and the faculty members. We moved also to the student levels. So we conduct a workshop for 40 students. This is part of the center that we initiate as we launch as part of the project. So we conduct a training for 40 students who we announce for that, and they apply. Then we choose them, and they were trained for 3 days, 6 hours per day, on the importance of using photos and videos on their learning, how to produce open resources, how to reflect on the resources that they choose or they produce, and then how to publish it. So it is 3 stages: how to use, how to produce, and how to publish, according to the ethics of using open resources and producing open resources. It was a very interesting experience to see how young students were very enthusiastic for this, and they developed like 20 short videos from only their own mobiles, so they don't need to use equipment that is special for that. They use their own equipment, and they reflect on that it's a very rich experience. They know more about the importance of the open OER, and they are trying to use it and in a better way for their learning and their understanding. Going to Safe Online Initiative, it is we launched this on Safer Internet Day, which was on the 6th of February. We have 9 partners who work with us for the last 6 months. We conduct 7 meetings. We develop an open resource for people to use, like a guide, and it's an open platform, free open platform that anybody can go to it. He can download, he can use, and he can also connect and reflect and interact with us or with others, with the material, with people. So in order to learn more about how to be safe online, we open the opportunity to train school students and school teachers and counselors on how to be safe online. And also we use social media in order to connect and communicate with the participants from around the world. So through this project, I think we moved from being beginners of producing open resources and using open resources to be more professional and confident about what to do, how to do it, and what is the priority in producing these things. I feel, me myself, I feel more confidence about what I'm doing, and I think the team, the learning cycles that we have, they all more confidence about what they are doing. The type of communication that we have through our meetings is high quality, and we wish to learn more through the rest of the project stages. I would like at the end to thank all the OpenMed family and thank them all for the rich experience and rich learning journey that we have, and look forward for more reflection and more learning from this experience. Thank you. The floor is yours.
There, hello, can you hear me again? No, just microphone, select microphone. Yes, sorry, I'm just coming. Sorry. Mute my microphone, unmute, select microphone, filter microphone. Hello, can you hear me? Okay, you can. Brilliant. Oh, sorry. Thank you so much, Saida. It's really great to hear about the value of the local learning circles, excuse me, and good to see the value that the course is having for not only your academic staff and how it's influencing teaching and learning, but also for your students in promoting positive learning experiences for them. So thank you so much for that. So now, if we could move on to Dr. Ramina to come and speak with us about some of the findings from the research that we've been doing on the OpenMed Open course, especially from the facilitators' perspectives. So over to you, Ramina.
Okay. Thank you very much, Catherine. I just want to make sure that I'm being heard well before I start. Okay. So thank you for giving us this time to share our preliminary findings of our research. In this short presentation, I will give a brief overview of our preliminary findings from the first batch of interviews that we have done with the facilitators of the OpenMed project. So I won't go into the OpenMed project because I think Catherine has done that very well. And for anybody who's joining us now and might not know much, but you can come to us on the chat, and I'm sure Christina and Catherine can give you a lot of links about the OpenMed project. So in this presentation, I will explore some intercultural differences and similarities that we're encountering, and some recommendations and challenges that the facilitators discuss during the interviews. So before I proceed to the findings, I would like to thank those facilitators who have given us the time to learn a little bit more about their experience in the OpenMed project. So thank you for your time and for your availability. So we were interested in getting a bird's eye view of what is happening in the different countries, just to see how things are being done similar or different in each country. So these are some of the findings we have found now. Learning circles seems to all be made up from mixed people from different fields now. But in each learning circle, there is always that technical person that the facilitators have thought to be important. So this kind of highlights the importance of a technical person in embracing open education. So whenever there seems to be a new group trying to embrace open education, having this person, a technical person in the group, seems to be very important from what we can see. Various facilitators have mentioned the systematic approach of this project, no, and how this has helped them in the way they have managed the project, in the way they are managing their own local circles. The management of the project, and I think here we have to say thank you to Christina, was pinpointed in by all the facilitators as being excellent, but not just as being excellent, but also as being an inspiration and as a learning experience for the facilitators. So also as a way of how they learn how to manage their learning circuits in the way how this project was being managed. So this was something else that came out. In terms of content, facilitators explained how through the project they have shifted their understanding from what they thought was e-learning to open education. It was a general comment that we got, that people thought they were joining this OpenMed project because it was related to e-learning. In reality, they found out that this was about open education, and they kind of understood two different aspects. And specifically, I think by almost all the facilitators, the part on the different licenses was the major contribution in this project in terms of learning material. Some of the OER benefits mentioned so far in the interviews were cutting costs. So in some universities, some professors still rely on textbooks, which are very expensive for the students. So using OER is a kind of going beyond these textbooks. And as well, sometimes the professors would like to have certain edition, but the edition has not arrived at the bookshop. So that kind of delays the learning in the classroom because the students might not have the book, or some students even buy previous editions. So, and then they will not afford to buy a new edition. So if you have like open education resources, you can kind of go beyond these limitations being faced at the moment in certain countries. And as well, facilitators spoke the mixed types of teaching now, having video, text files, quizzes. So this kind of contributes a lot to being more creative and innovative in the way you teach. So another point is like what we are asking about, what is the readiness now for open education? So how are universities prepared to be able to embrace open education? So these are some of the points that came out so far. So use of English in the teaching. So using English in teaching seems to be a prerequisite to utilizing open education resources. Having professors who have studied abroad and going back to their university seems to be an additional value. Having already people who have worked already in open education because there's already that experience and not encouragement, but having enthusiasm, that's the right word, having enthusiasm for open education, no? The link between professors and the policy department, so institutionalizing the OER effort, forming official committees, and having somebody also looking into the policy. So for instance, in some countries, they told me that the students can take some university courses, but they are not officially recognized because the university policy only allows a certain % of the course being done online. So the link between the professors and the policy seems to be very important for the readiness of embracing open education. The development and installation of technical facilities, which I know OpenMed was part of, seems to be also very important. And training and awareness campaigns. Also private universities as opposed to public universities. State-funded universities seem to have a little bit more problems when it comes to embracing open education. In terms of policy especially, the private universities seem to have less problems in initiating certain policies in comparison to state-funded universities. Something that also came out is having a fast, secure, and continuous internet is a basic, is really important before embracing open education. Also having experts in higher category positions, so having somebody as being a rector who is kind of believing in open education. Okay, so those were the points in terms of readiness for embracing open education. Now in terms of major challenges discussed by facilitators, one major challenge mentioned by everybody in every interview various times is time. So everyone found it difficult to keep up with the timeline, both facilitators and learners, mainly because people are still doing open education on top of their workload, mostly in their free time and leisure time. So some people told me that whenever there is a vacation period, productivity increases in the learning circle because people are doing this during their vacation now. The moment they have some time off work, it's when they log into their open education work, let's say. So it is a major challenge adding another task for people who are already very busy. As well, something related to time. So some professors, some of the facilitators told me that professors need a lot of time to convert their material to open education resources because some are already comfortable using textbooks and the presentations are already done. So it is a bit difficult for them to kind of do this transition. They don't have some time dedicated for this transition. Okay, so some cultural challenges mentioned were I think people interested and seeing the benefits of open education, not only lecturers, but also students, because some facilitators told me that even the students were not so reluctant to learn through open education. Another cultural change was that the vacation period varies between Europe and the MENA region. So some people were some workload during the vacation period, which for Europe is a vacation period, but in the MENA region it's preparing until just the week before vacation. So it's a very busy week. So they cannot keep up with some of the timelines when they are in relation to vacation, no? Internet connection was also and is still an issue. So when people work at home, because they are doing this most of the time in their leisure time, they don't have the same fast connection as they have at the universities, and the same went for webinars. Some people could not connect to webinars because they are already at home and they don't have a good connection and the line is cutting off. Okay, another cultural issue, a challenge mentioned that in some countries and even in some regions, universities might be competing with each other. So this is limitation to get people to collaborate together. So this is something we kept in mind when we think about different countries collaborating together, no? And related to this point, the idea of sharing and collaboration is not yet part of the Arabic culture. It's very common in Europe. People share things, their work on Twitter. People open their work online. But it seems to be in the Arabic countries not part of the culture as yet. And as well, in some countries, some images which are used in open education might have to be changed. So, for instance, Saudi Arabia was mentioned as an example where all the images of females have to be removed. So this is kind of the adaptation of the course that these countries are doing when it comes to preparing content for these countries. As well, another cultural issue that was mentioned was the ranking of the professors. So you're trying to make professors at a higher rank to use open education resources. You cannot treat them like students, so how you communicate with these people is very important, because sometimes they are in such a high rank position and also doing this job for a very long time. It's very difficult to communicate with them. So the communication was, I've been told, is very important, how different facilitators approach the communication. No? And language was also a challenge mentioned. Most material need to be translated to Arabic. And even though Arabic is the major language spoken in the MENA region, dialects or different language evolutions means that they are not always speaking about, we are not always speaking about one language like in English, for instance. So this is also an issue that could be an issue when you are translating resources and trying to make them open, because perhaps what might be available in one or useful in one region might not be useful in another, even though it is in Arabic, no? Formal recognition. So getting formal recognition for content covered online for students. Students are still not getting formal recognition for the content they cover online, so they do it like as an added value for their course. And also lecturers are not formally recognized for their efforts to transpose their work to open education. So some facilitators told me that they could, can you hear me well? Because I just saw the message that sound goes on and off. Okay. Okay, so I will continue. So yeah, the lecturers are not formally recognized for the work to transpose their education online to open resources, for instance. So this was an issue that they mentioned, because a lot of lecturers need to dedicate a lot of time to actually choose the resources, decide which ones are adequate, then localize them. So it's a big effort from the lecturer's point of view. And they are never given time or an incentive. So some people told me incentive would be interesting to encourage professors to do this, you know, to shift their resources online and open them, no? Finding relevant content and adapting it to one's curricula, of course, is a major challenge for everyone. And while the webinars seem to work best in terms of format, people feel that the discussion board sometimes feels like a Facebook discussion. So they would prefer webinars rather than discussion boards. Another challenge was the ICT skills, especially by some professors. Some professors might not have the basic ICT skills to actually use basic ICT. So they might be very reluctant to embrace open education, and not only reluctant to embrace open education, but also having colleagues talking about it, they feel kind of left out because they know what colleagues are talking about. And as well, maintenance of online materials. So in some universities, there might be some incentives to create online content. So in one university, there's even a grant for a professor who wants to create a MOOC, for instance. But there is no budget foreseen for the maintenance of the content. And as we know, the content will quickly becomes expired, so there is no incentive for the maintenance. So while there might be like initiative and incentive to create the content, there should also be some incentives for the professors to keep the material up to date, let's say. So in terms of collaboration, which is another point that we found out now, we could make it like if we make a network analysis of what's happening at the moment over the past few years now in the project, we see of how the entire team worked, let's say. So I would see a number of very dense groups in each country working together, so that those would be the learning circles. And that was the task of the project, to create a learning circle and work within that learning circle. So I think that was very well achieved. Yet it is interesting to see that you see connections between European universities and the Arab universities, but hardly any connection between the Arab universities. So we asked the facilitators how we could invert the situation, and some of the suggestions that the facilitators gave were the following. So the facilitators said that there is need for more face-to-face meeting. They told me that all the major decisions were taken when there was a face-to-face meeting. It seems in the MENA region, people are not used to pursue collaboration through the internet. And meetings should be moderated. They suggested that meetings are moderated with an effort in separating people from the same country. So they suggested that they should be separated, because otherwise they will end up again with the same people. And also they told me that the presence of a European in moderating the meeting seems to improve the response. This was also seen during the online communication, the email communication. Having a European moderating seems to have increased the response from all the collaborators. No. They also suggested networking sessions. People seem to have discussed open education in unplanned time gaps. So when people had a coffee, or when something happened, there was an incident, and there they coincidentally were next to somebody, and this is where they talked about possible collaboration. So allocating perhaps some free time for networking could provide a space where people could talk to each other and perhaps allow this collaboration between the Arab countries to happen. Grouping people with so this was like contrasting. So some people prefer to be grouped with people who have different field interests, and other people prefer to be grouped with people who have the same interests. So engineers, for instance, want to be grouped with other engineers so they could speak about open educational resources specifically related to engineering, while other facilitators told me that they prefer to be grouped with different fields, because like this, it's more varied. So there we had contrasting ideas, no? And somebody suggested, which I think was a really good idea, that there could be like as a goal to create a common course between like 2 or 3 universities. So they would decide on a topic which is relevant for these 3 universities, and the 3 universities would come together to do that course. I think it was a very interesting idea of making more incentives to collaborate between the Arab countries, let's say. So also ask what competencies should future moderators, future facilitators have, and these are the responses we got. So facilitators should be open-minded, have experience in education, have a big network of people that they can communicate to, be self-motivated, be an influencer, know how to teach online, able to allocate time to being online, at least 1 hour a day, encourage students to work together, so collaboration between students, but encouraging, so the facilitator needs to be able to encourage that towards the students. And the facilitators need to be creative when designing courses for students. So more or less, this is what we got until now. I'm sure we will get more ideas from the next batch of interviews. So the last point, during the interviews, some very interesting initiative bottom-up approaches came up, which these are not things we asked for, but these are things that came out in the interviews, which I think are worth mentioning. So we are talking about innovative bottom-up approaches. So these are some of them. So they told me, some of the facilitators said that the way they can push open education is to push it through students. So providing success stories through students is a way of increasing awareness, because the students talk to each other, and students, it's a bit contagious with the students, and students want to know more. So it's the students who will demand it later, you know. Second approach was encouraging students to be part of international forums. So even though it does not count for their degree, so their formal degree, because in most universities what they do, online education is still not formally recognized. It helps the students gauge how their work fits in the international arena, not just locally. So this is what some facilitators are doing. This, in a way, this encourages students to be part of the international arena, and not just being only doing the work locally. So some facilitators are encouraging students to actually display their work, to share it. So kind of transmitting this openness already to the students, no? And some of them told me they also help their students to put their work online and show them how to create Creative Commons licenses. So next year's students can already learn from this year's students. So kind of students learning from each other. Another initiative which I think was really interesting was the forming of a student organization specifically about to promote open education. So this is a student initiative. It's called the Creative Commons Society. So there's a student group, let's say, who are promoting Creative Commons Society. Another initiative was creating an online repository for open education initiative, for example, the OER Lebanon. And as well, another one was creating an online course specifically designed for lecturers to instruct them how to teach online. These are all initiatives that the facilitators are doing out of their own willingness. One final thing is introducing students to MOOCs, to the MOOC concept. Some students do not know about the MOOC concept, so some of the facilitators are doing these free, also voluntary, now let's say a presentation about what a MOOC is and where you can look for a MOOC. So very briefly, these are some of the findings we found from the first batch of the interviews. We hope to give you more when we get more data. So thank you very much for letting us share our data with you, and we are happy to discuss any.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me now? Am I back on? Hopefully clearly. Thank you so much, Ramina. Really very comprehensive focus on some preliminary findings from the facilitators' perspectives. And just to conclude, I mean, there's so much richness there. We will be sure to be bringing this together and sharing these findings. So that's a fully intentional part of our next stage plan. So please keep a watch on our website as we share the findings, and we'll get these published as well. I think it's really interesting to look at the similarity maybe in some of what Saida was saying about the value of the learning circle and the impact the course is having, not only at academic levels, but for students. And I totally agree with you that students as advocates are really powerful. And I guess we're really doing this for them, with them, you know, to make higher education open and accessible. So I think involving our students is fantastic and really important. Clearly as well, there's a lot of challenges to overcome, and supporting people with the shifting in understanding and the transition into moving into open education practice. And I think the project recognises this, which was why the national agenda is very much focused on the long-term initiatives and institutional policies and strategies, because we know this is something that isn't going to occur just overnight. We know it needs thought, planning, and a lot of support. It's interesting that some of the findings from the facilitators link very closely with what was highlighted in the initial compendium about the need to build in time to support academics in their capacity building, the importance of the opportunity to have the technical support and the internet bandwidth, and having champions as well, because as we're hearing, this is something people are doing above and beyond their other work. So it's incredible that, you know, there's this commitment and motivation really to embrace this practice, and we just want this to continue and infiltrate across the region and wider. I think really we need to finish there. We maybe not have much time for questions, but you can please get in contact with us via our OpenMed website, and we have the contact details on the slides, which will be made available. It's been a real pleasure to be with you this afternoon, and thank you to Saida and Romina for your really insightful and rich presentations. Thank you to those who participated with us and engaged in the chat. And as Christina, who's our project manager of OpenMed, has just shared the link to our website. So really, have a great Open Education Week. Enjoy the rest of the papers and presentations this week, and maybe we'll look forward to connecting with you if we're not already in the near future. Okay, thank you. Bye, everyone.